Mike Riconosciuto is probably one of the 12 most brilliant men on Earth.
This man is known to us only as Ray, and he agreed to go on our cameras only on the condition that his face be shadowed. He was recruited into the CIA by a 20-year veteran operative to work with one Michael Riconosciuto. They were to build portable electronics labs to intercept communications. These were highly technical and sophisticated command posts known as C3I, which stood for Communication, Command, Control, and Intelligence.
We're being fed the information secretly, and we know what's going on. I would prefer believing General Parton's explanation than the ANFO explosion. Of course, we have our own definition of what happened.
Their own definition of what happened is the super bomb, which has been touted for months by Ted Gunderson on talk radio.
Now, the way our pineapple bomb works is that a cloud of aluminum silicate, lead azide, and a few other ingredients is set up so that a specific chain molecule exists, permeates the air all the way around the pillars and so on and so forth. And this cloud is energized with a high voltage pattern, a specific high voltage pattern, which produces a sort of a stairway pattern in the molecular structure of the cloud. Part of that pattern is a hydrodynamic generator, a hydrodynamic power generator, an energy source, shall we say, permeating the cloud, which is then energized with another energy source and then detonated. And this causes the cloud itself to explode in such a fashion so that if the cloud is circulating around the pillar, then it crushes the pillar from all sides and turns that pillar literally to dust and leaves only the rebar behind. So if you've got this cloud permeating all the way around the first floor, wherever it is, anything in its path gets crushed, imploded to dust instantaneously. And when that happens, of course, there's nothing left to hold up the floors above, so bang, they come down like a pancake.
How does this coincide with the 5 or 6 second differential seen on the seismograms from Oklahoma Geological Center?
Well, the delay in the two detonations is very critical. In fact, it's one of the most critical aspects of the bomb that gives it away. And so I'm not going to comment how accurate the seismographic delay is. I'm going to say that it's within the accuracy range that it should be to fit our bomb signature.
Could your bomb have been numbers 2 and 3 that people heard?
Absolutely. In fact, that's what I'm proposing that happened. The number 1 was the ANFO, number 2 was the setup explosion, and number 3 was the final detonation.
Michael Riconosciuto. He's currently serving a 30-year sentence in the South Carolina Federal Penitentiary. He and Ted Gunderson have been acquainted for more than 15 years. They worked together on cases that resulted in 5 murder convictions. Michael Riconosciuto is one of the developers of the barometric bomb. However, he claims that in 1991 he was framed on drug charges by factions in the government in order to get rid of him. His documentation of being drug clean and company tests for years prior to his arrest tends to substantiate this. Investigator Gunderson and I traveled to a federal penitentiary in South Carolina. We wanted to talk with Michael Riconosciuto about his drug conviction and also about this super bomb, which the government denies exists.
Looking at General Parton's photographs, they very dramatically show the elements of the structural steel rebar protruding in the bomb debris. And this is a type of damage that is not possible with an ammonium nitrate fuel oil or ANFO type bomb. An ANFO bomb has a lot of gas pressure and very little brisance or shattering power. And at the range that that bomb was detonated, to do that type of structural damage this far into the structure Here you can see on the columns here the pieces of rebar completely exposed. Ordinarily, it would take a contact type explosive to do that kind of damage.
We ask about telltale signs.
The signature is one of blast damage or shattering power, which is characteristic of a very high order explosive. The detonation velocity of our bomb is in excess of 20,000 meters per second. There is no known chemical explosive that has that much brisance. It is a type of explosive detonation device which is developed out of the nuclear weapons program. And this is not your garden variety detonator circuit that you would find in, say, the DuPont Blaster's Handbook, which is the Bible of the commercial explosives industry. Even in ordinary conventional military explosives, you would not find a detonator of this sophistication. The only place you find this sophistication is in nuclear weapons triggers.
Are you then saying this was a nuclear weapon?
No, this is detonated by the type of device which is used to initiate a nuclear weapon, which is non-nuclear in and of itself.
Riconosciuto believes that there are no conventional explosives in existence capable of doing the kind of damage evident at the scene.
Ted, this building was rated better than seismic zone 1. And any engineer familiar with the basic Roerich equations on structural stress would be able to tell you that this damage pattern is very unusual. And for a conventional explosive to do this kind of damage, where there's a marked demarcation from Class A to Class C damage, in other words, total destruction, to moderate damage, it's just a technical impossibility. It would take a blast wave of extreme brisance or shattering power to do that kind of damage. It's obvious from the public reports that there were two separate blasts, and it's also obvious publicly that enhanced explosives are of a two-stage or long induction type explosion. There are, however, certain details which are classified, and this type of knowledge is highly specialized, and your average person on the street, or even your average explosives engineer, would not be aware of this type of technology.
When was this bomb developed?
This bomb was developed in the late 70s through our company, Pyrotronics Corporation, which was the parent company of Hercules Research. And then we went into a joint venture with the Wackenhut Corporation. In order to demolish a building like that, a building that is designed for better than seismic zone 1 stresses, would take an immense amount of rigging, and you would have to actually drill the structural members to plant the charges.
Is this bomb, the barometric bomb, a directional bomb?
Yes, the blast dispersion can be precisely controlled. It can be omnidirectional, or it can be very directional in a less than 15-degree fan if it's detonated that way.
Michael, assuming that the building was drilled and wired, could it have been done from closing time on Tuesday night before 9 o'clock in the morning Wednesday?
Absolutely not. It would have taken days to prep a building like that.
Does this bombing fit the signature of any other bomb other than the barometric bomb?
None that I know of.
Do you have any knowledge of the barometric bomb ever having been used before other than during experimentation?
Yes, it was used to take down a high-rise apartment building in downtown Beirut in retaliation for Mr. Buckley's torture and death.
What year?
That would have been in 1984.
And who was responsible for that? Who had control of the bomb at that time that did this?
Our friend. I don't want to. I don't turn the camera off.
1989, Michael Riconosciuto's laboratory was burglarized and the top-secret barometric bomb prototype was taken. He believes that the drugs were planted at this time, which led to his conviction and 30-year sentence in 1991. This has become known as the Aberdeen burglary.
Mike, what would tie the Aberdeen burglary into the Oklahoma City bombing?
Shortly after the bombing in Oklahoma, I talked to a Treasury Department agent, and he told me that micro-taggants from the devices that were stolen in the Aberdeen burglary showed up in the bomb debris. He said the lab at the forensic testing lab the Treasury Department has in San Francisco found it.
Is there any way that more than one of your bombs, we'll call it, could have been used at the Murrah Building?
It wouldn't have taken more than one.
So you're saying one could have done the damage that we see, two would have done much more than we see?
Absolutely. One would have. I'm surprised that so little damage was done. The micro-taggants are required by law in commercial explosives in the United States, and they're like a serial number, and they will survive a blast. And that way the forensic bomb investigators can recover bomb blast debris and identify the source of the explosive if it was a commercially made explosive in the United States. The components that we were using in our research program were required to have micro-taggants in them in case anything ever happened to them where they got into the wrong hands.
Your contacts in ATF, have they told you that this is the bomb that could be traced back to Aberdeen, Washington?
They told me that the micro-taggants from the detonators that were reported stolen in the police report that we filed, that Raymond and Carl Worth had filed with the Aberdeen Police Department, are the ones that showed up there specifically.
In the Oklahoma City bombing?
Yes.
If the testimony from these ex-government agents is true, it points to a much more ominous bomb being present at the Murrah Building on April 19, 1995.